Today we're visiting the little town of Black Mountain, North Carolina. This is a town where Lindsay and I went to college, first lived when we were married. We had Forrest and Joseph in this town, and we bought our first house here. And I'd like to tell you a little story about some of our experiences here. So today is Black Friday, a day when a lot of people probably go into debt. But I don't think it's wise for us to go in debt. You know, the Bible says that the borrower is slave to the lender. A lot of times being in debt will tie us up so that we're not free to do the things that our King Jesus asks us to do. I believe that debt could be used as a tool, but more often than not, it's not used wisely. You know, we all have our limits on what's an acceptable amount of debt, but the question that I would really ask is why? If debt really puts us in bondage, then I would argue that debt just gets in the way. My philosophy on debt is that if I can't pay it off within a month's amount of labor, then it's just too much. I don't want to be strapped to anything for any longer than that. Uncle T? Yeah. Is that Uncle T? Uncle T. A lot of people use debt to buy things that they don't necessarily need. In essence, if you go into debt for something, then you become a slave to pay that thing off. Just to be clear, I'm not throwing stones at anyone who's in debt. I'm just challenging us all to think about if we should use debt, and if so, how. Now, we've been out of debt for a couple of years now, and it's a real freeing experience. It's allowed us to do a lot of the things that God has placed on our hearts. So now we're going to tell you how we got out of debt, but first I've got to tell you how we got into debt. Step 1, go to college with student loans. Now, I believe that college can be a good thing for the right person, the right time, studying the right thing, and for the right reasons. But I don't think it's a good idea to go into debt for college. If I had done my college career in 6 years instead of 4, I would not have had $25,000 in debt, which would take me the next 6 or more years to pay off. Step 2, rent an apartment that's entirely too small. Our first apartment when we got married was in the attic of this market right here, and it was tiny. What's funny is that we thought it was too small at the time, and now we're living in a space about the same size with 4 children. So our perspective on small has definitely changed. Step 3, get a slightly larger house, and then adopt a ginormous dog.
We used to live up there, boys. Yeah. Me and Daddy, when we were first married.
He was a Great Dane who didn't have a yard and needed a lot of space. We thought, if we rent a bigger space, we'll be paying more, and if we're paying more, then why not just buy a house and pay a mortgage? We can't afford that. So at the time we thought, we'll get a camping trailer, find a piece of land, and go live on it cheap, and life will be good. Then we started looking for land. And what we found was that land was very expensive because we live in sort of like a vacation area up in the mountains of western North Carolina. So we found this piece of property right here. In order to put a septic system in, we would have had to have built it on the top of the mountain and pumped everything all the way up, which would have cost almost more than the property itself. We thought, well then why don't we just find a cheap house? We'll buy it and fix it up. And we asked the bank how much they would lend to us. So we went and looked for $125,000 houses. We ended up buying the house that I'm about to show you for $160-some-thousand. And I'm just trying to illustrate the point that this whole exercise began because we wanted to have a yard for our dog. We ended up with an $1,100 mortgage as a result, whereas we were only paying $600 in rent for our apartment. And it turns out that within just a few years, the housing market would collapse, our house value would plummet. Okay, well, I don't want to hang around too long, but this is the house we used to own. That was the first house we bought, boys. So step 4 to getting into debt is to buy a house that you can't afford with almost 0 down payment. Step 5 to going into debt is to buy a portable planetarium. Yeah, there's a whole other story behind that. So all told, we had racked up $25,000 in student loan, $160,000 in a mortgage, and about $12,000 to $15,000 for a small business opportunity. It's a little bit here and it's a little bit there, and then all of a sudden our bills are out of control and we don't know how to get out from underneath of it. How much is enough and how much is too much? So far, we've spent a lot of time telling you about how we got into debt, and that's intentional. It's important to understand that debt is attracting us or attacking us from every angle.
So as a result, we decided to sell our house, sell most of our stuff. We moved into a camper, and our urge to get out of debt was so strong that we eventually moved into a tent so that we could save even more money.
So it took us about 10 months to use every penny we had to get out of debt, but we were blessed. We were happy, content, and since then we've decided that we won't go into debt again. Because for us, we value our freedom more than we value the things that we would trade our freedom for. My encouragement to you this week would be, as you consider following Jesus more and more each day, take a look at all the decisions that you make. How we spend our money says a lot about what our intentions are. So it's good to take a close look at that. And if debt is getting in the way of serving God or loving other people, then certainly it's gotta go. We love you guys. We'll see you next time. And God bless you.
Thanks for watching. See you next time. 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 Yeah.